So my personal journey on how I ended up creating the Family Trauma Institute began early in my career, where when I first graduated from school, I was really taught skills to be what I call client-centered or non-directive. In other words, I was taught how to do play therapy. But as I moved on and started working with kids that had severe behavioral problems, and moved on to a career as an alternative school counselor where kids are put together that have behavioral problems, I began to see an interesting phenomenon that the more I work with the child, the more it could be undone with the family. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So every summer the kids would go, I'd teach anger management tools, things would be going better, but then it would unravel and they'd relapse. And I watched a developer of family therapy by the name of Salvador Minuchin, and he best said it best, where he would ask families, I got to ask you a tough question. How do you help your child misbehave? And that was like a light bulb moment because I saw that problems in children were interactional between parent and child. And so I moved on to working at a hospital, but the problem was is that there was no step-by-step tools on how to become a family therapist. So I'd be scared to death walking in there. I'd bring everybody in, they'd start yelling at each other, screaming at each other, and I'd be a deer in headlights, literally. I got inspired to go back to graduate school and learn how to do family therapy through like a one-way mirror where supervisors would watch me and my delivery. And I started my research on answering the question of how can I find the micro steps that made families work. And I was just blessed to go to some of the founders of family therapy and ask, could I watch your videotapes of your most successful sessions? And so when I moved on from graduate school and got my first job at UNLV in Las Vegas, I spent 2 years watching videotapes. So what happened for me as a researcher and clinician was I saw a huge gap in our workforce where you had over 300 different therapy models. Most of them weren't researched. You had people making decisions based on intuition or just guesswork. And then you had research studies, which we called who won studies. The studies would just compare one model to the other, look at outcomes, but not give the frontline therapist what happened to make the change. And the most important question is, after the treatment's over, do the changes stick a year later, 2 years later? We call that recidivism. And what I'm proud of with the Family Trauma Institute and the Family Systems Trauma Model is we have both. We have outcomes to show stickiness, which means that the families move into what's called second order change, permanent change. And we have the micro steps to get there. And so the workforce wants to have confidence when they walk in that the intervention works, but also how to do it. And that's my contribution. So if I had a crystal ball to look into the future of what this will contribute to our mental health field, family systems trauma, here's what I see and see already. It's getting family therapy off the endangered species list. Mm-hmm. And it's moving the field to an excitement of the possibilities, because everyone I talk to knows in their heart that we need to work with the family. And many, many people know about trauma. What I would see in the future is it's already happening. Hundreds of people are turning into thousands of people registering for the webinars. People are coming to the course and then they're telling two people and so on from word of mouth. And the last thing is that in the process, it develops community. The turnover rate in mental health is the second highest next to pastors and police officers. You're in isolation. You're working in the ER, emotional ER every day. And so the course was developed for ease of consumption, speed of consumption, fun of consumption, and being part of a community. Because people do not have time to go back to graduate school. We're drowning in information. We scan, we don't read. The learning environment's changed in the last 3 years. So you adapt to that to make it fresh, to make it fun.